Well, we lost our son Sullivan, Donahoe Thole, about 5 years ago. He would be 5. January 26th of 2011 was when we delivered him. We had a really perfect pregnancy. He was our firstborn. We were really excited to be pregnant. I know I had always wanted to be a mom, and Chris had always wanted to be a dad, so that was right on the top of a list of things that we wanted to get done right when we got married.
I don't know when I'm supposed to jump in, but I don't know what a perfect pregnancy is, but we certainly had our, I mean, there were things that came up during, but nothing that was ultimately wrong with Sullivan or anything, but we had, diabetes and...
That was not with this pregnancy at all.
Oh, got it.
Okay. So it was a perfect pregnancy. Yeah, we're going to talk about Sullivan a little bit. Is that okay? Well, because they just want to hear about him because he's a cool guy.
And then we had the deal with the dates, but that was ultimately a clerical issue that caused a lot of confusion, and we ended up having to redo a test. And we had some anxiety about it because of, we've got one ovary and...
Oh yeah, I always thought I would have a hard time getting pregnant because I had a cyst on an ovary, so I only had one ovary, so I was always really nervous that I would never get pregnant.
There was a lot of,
But everything was really, I think, perfect for a first pregnancy until about 34 weeks when I had gotten a really terrible headache, like maybe one of my worst headaches, and Chris was out of town on a business trip, and it was just me, and I had said, I don't really know what I do about this. And Chris said, well, why don't you call your doctor and see what they tell you to do. So I had called the doctor, and he said, well, why don't you come in? You're far enough along that it could be something to be concerned about. I went in by myself, really scared, and my blood pressure was really high, like in the 200s over 90s or something like that. And so they assumed that I had preeclampsia, but they were going to keep an eye on me. So they admitted me. Chris decided to drive home from his work trip.
Yeah, when she had first called me, I made the decision to get on the road right away, and I figured, if everything's okay, I'll at least get to Rochester and then drive back to La Crosse and continue working if everything was fine. And I, by the time I got there, I decided to drive all the way back, and so I was back within. By the time I got the call that, hey, yeah, you should come back, I was already pretty close, so it didn't take too long.
So while I was in the hospital, I'm just going to put him down. While I was in the hospital, they said, we're going to keep you here and do some, like a 24-hour urine test to see if there's any protein in your urine. And we did that, and there never was. So my blood pressure continued to be really high, and they monitored me, and they ended up keeping me in the hospital for about 4 days. So it was a Monday to a Thursday, and they were going back and forth, checking Sullivan the whole time, and he was always fine. He was always perfect. He was always really active. They talked about how big he was going to be, and the doctor would say, do we do a C-section? Do we induce you? Because you are far enough ahead that you could have a healthy baby if we just get him out. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I just want to keep this baby in a little bit longer, just, because we had been told over and over again by a million sources that the longer the baby is inside, the better. Thursday came after being admitted on a Monday, and the doctor said, you know what, your tests are looking good. We've gotten your blood pressure down. I'm not sure it's a case of preeclampsia. Let's send you home on a pretty strict bed rest, and then we'll have you come in on Monday and do an ultrasound, and I'll see you on Tuesday. So the weekend was great. It was fun. We had family come up, and on Monday we went in for the ultrasound, and he was still I take that back. On Monday he was slow.
Yeah, and it was the cycle where, one day we would go in and we would, focus on Meg and those numbers and checking on Mom, and then the next day we would go in and we would focus on Sullivan, focus on the baby and run those numbers, and that's what we're going to do, the ultrasound and everything. And Monday was fine, a little slow.
But no concern. The doctor sent me home and said, I'll see you tomorrow.
And I think Monday was the only appointment I had ever missed, and I always thought about that afterward. But
so we went in on Tuesday with my mom and Chris, and first part of the appointment is checking to see the heartbeat, putting the Doppler on.
And so, normally, it takes a little time to find a heartbeat, and it was taking a little bit longer, and, when we had, Meg and I, and Meg's mom was there too, and a lot of what I remember is just, a little bit of panic, waiting for the doctor, just say something, say everything's okay, and that wasn't coming.
It was really quiet.
Really quiet, and we were all extremely quiet. And eventually said, okay, well, I'm not finding the heartbeat, so let's...
He didn't even say that. He just said, let's rush you to the ultrasound room or something like that.
Yeah.
And hook you up. So we ran. We hurried and hurried and hurried. And and I'm thinking, okay, fix it. What's the plan of action here? Let us know. What are we going to do? Because clearly this is not over. But we got to the hospital room, and in the meantime, we're breaking down, and well, and the doctor said that, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
There's no heartbeat.
Yeah.
And he's gone. And like Chris said, we were like, well, let's get this baby out. There's got to be some way to bring him back.
Yeah, and a lot of just really nothing.
Yeah, it was very slow. It was everybody was very slow, and I thought that was really strange.
And maybe we were the last ones to understand that there was nothing we could really do, but. And I don't, I know there were. You guys don't like sitting still, do you?
This is the cutest interview so far. Got a little heads bobbing.
Well, these guys are.
And I think it was so finite for us. I feel like they sent in the special nurses to us, and we're like, now, what would you like? Would you like to hold the baby? And we're like...
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Why are you talking like that?
And that's never something that you think about or can plan for, and
we said no, or I said no.
I don't remember...
I just don't want to...
And I don't remember who or why or what led us to the decision that, but I'll never... never give that back. Just being able to hold him.
And we had family come, and I remember actually, even before he was delivered, my mom saying, "Can't we just knock her out and do a C-section?"
Yeah.
I don't want her to feel any pain, any more pain.
Yeah.
And then my sister, who's a doctor, had said, "You're not going to want that scar. That scar will always be a reminder of what you lost." And I'm so glad that I didn't do the C-section, not because of the scar, because there are more painful things than a stupid scar, but I was proud of myself for being able to do that. But it was scary, and it was painful. And it was, after that, again, we had family come and hold him.
And at some point I had called gone out into the hall and called my parents, and who live, 8 hours away, and I think they were there in 6, so they were there for us as well, and family. family and friends were just amazing. And
this was all in the middle of the night. And
yeah, and nothing in particular. It's just standing out in the hall, being in the waiting room. If we needed anything, they were there, and it was so that part of it was. And I don't even know 90% of what they did.
But they were there.
I should probably ask, but I know that they were thinking of us, and they went to our house and sort of cleaned up for us, so that when we came home,
it wasn't all full of baby stuff.
Yeah, and that and that was a whole other issue. Bringing in bags of chips and just silly stuff that I don't know if I've ever said thank you for, but wasn't there like a Costco-sized thing of Kleenex involved too?
Yeah, I mean we
went through that.
Things that we never would have thought of because we weren't thinking of food.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking of anything. We
And
were broken.
Yeah, the the nurses. And you had mentioned, they were incredible. We had just amazing nurses, and it was fantastic. The one thing that was, we had, so there's apparently like a specialist, right, that is there for those types of things, and she was actually on vacation, when we lost Sullivan, and while we were in the hospital. So I think she really wasn't there until the last day, and I remember there was
We were being discharged.
yeah, and I'm sure it's fine for some people. For us, there was at some point there was like a teddy bear. So she showed up, had like a half an hour spiel, gave us a teddy bear, and for us that was I don't know if it was the timing, but it was we're being wheeled out, and here's
It was some therapy bear that weighs about the same as a newborn baby.
and it just didn't.
And they give it to moms who have lost children just so you don't have to leave with empty arms, which is a sweet sentiment, but it was
just
not for
timing
us. And we ended up kind of, not screaming at this lady, but like, lay off us.
Yeah.
I hate that bear so much.
Yeah. But we're, and going home was rough because we live really close. We ended up moving a while later, which was difficult. But the constant reminder. It didn't. For me, it was one of those details. And I remember at some point, in the hospital when I'm. You're going through all this, and I remember thinking hard about, being honest, thinking hard about what are we going to do? Is this the end of us? Is that, thinking about Sullivan, and is that what I want that legacy to be, and making the choice there that this was, that we weren't, that's not what I wanted. I wanted us to we've got these guys now, but I see so much of Sullivan there too, because he was so perfect.
And they never did find out any reason. And they said it wasn't due to the possible preeclampsia. Wasn't a cord issue.
No, it was one of those. The description or the explanation that I latched onto was it was some. The analogy was the star basketball player running down the court and has a heart attack because of the some unknown electrical impulse problem or whatever. So essentially, we don't know, which was hard to.
I hate it.
Nothing you can do about that, right? So do we have more kids? Do we try this again? You know, knowing that it's not going to be as, you know, for as, I mean, it wasn't in my view, it wasn't a perfect pregnancy, right? You know, it just didn't, but it was fine, and I knew that the second time around was not going to be as, you know, as relaxing. Relaxing, right? No. But, you know, it was going to be pretty stressful, and it was. And we got, you know, we got Michael out of it, and it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
What kind of support did you get as the man?
You know, I remember coming out of it and thinking that there should be something for the men who go through this, because it's you know, if I mean, you can't go through this alone, and some people do, you know. I mean, I can't imagine it, because we did have support. We had family, we had friends. I've got some, you know, so I had some amazing support from that direction, but I, you know, I'm the and my family, and you know, I don't talk about these types of things. So that was a challenge for me.
You had tried therapy?
Well, someone suggested it, you and family, and that's not something I would have done on my own. But looking back, that was, you know, it was valuable.
We were going through the motions. I think.
Oh yeah.
It was like, what are we supposed to do? Well, you're supposed to see a therapist.
Yeah.
So we both did that. You're supposed to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we would both talk about it.
Yeah.
Mostly me, not you.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, and that was okay.
We did Faith's Lodge.
We did go to Faith's Lodge. Immediately coming out of that experience, I mean, we had trouble while we were there. I mean, it was a challenge, and I felt like, yeah, while we were at Faith's Lodge, I felt like, I mean, because our story isn't the worst, and not that it's a competition, but I felt like I was there to support, you know, other families and other people, other couples that were going through some really incredible problems, situations, and it was, you know, it was a lot of alone time, and that was interesting. But hey guys, can you listen? You be good listeners. No, no, they can't. Yeah. So we're missing the oldest brother to rein them in, is what you're saying here. But there was one moment as we're leaving Faith's Lodge, where you know, we had wrapped up, we had said our goodbyes, and we were walking to the car, and there was patches of snow, right? And you know, coming out of the snow were these, you know, and we hadn't seen a clover the whole weekend, right? But we had sort of latched onto that as like a little
symbol of,
yeah. When we draw Sullivan's name, we'd put a little clover in, you know, for the, you know, little shamrock in there. And so as we're walking to the car, we see a little patch of clover, and it just, you know, for us, it was like, yeah, it was a little like, you know, you guys are going to be okay. And you know, after that weekend, and after those, I don't know, it had to have been a couple months, right? 3 months. it was kind of a, you know, it was a step, and that's, you know, and that's all we were looking for. Little days where you could be okay. Got a little bit.
You guys want to add anything to your story?
I think we're probably good. Just to, I mean, if I could add, you know, I was so desperate to connect with other people, and a little bit of the reason why I wanted to do this is because I wanted to know who else had gone through this and what they did and what a recommendation is. And I mean, it really is that you go through the motions until more time passes and it's less difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And you get pregnant again, and it's going to be hard, but I mean, that, I think getting pregnant again kind of saved us, as scary as it was. Because it just kind of gave us hope that it would be okay.
I mean, when we started talking about that, I wasn't ready. I did not want to go through all of that again. I knew that it was important to Meg, and you know, so it took a little convincing for me, but you know, I wouldn't take that back. You know, it's things have become good, and not perfect, but good. So it's taken us a lot. We've been through a lot. But
Yeah.
We've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. And it's still hard, but it's different hard. It's it weighs on your heart, but not in the way it used to. And
it's, you know, one of the things that I don't know if we talked about it, but you know, it's different for because our family went through this too, right? Our friends went through it, and it's affected them differently than it's affected us. And some family members, you know, really have a hard time. For us, we wanted to hear his name, right? And even though we would cry, or even though, you know, it was hard for us to talk about him, we wanted to. And some family, you know, that was really challenging because they were, you know, you know, for as hard as it was for us, you know, our moms and our dads and our brothers and sisters went through it too. And so
I think that's it. You guys are too crazy.